YouTube, this is Darkon633 back with another Super Sentai review. Today we're going to take a look at the Kaitou Sentai Lupinranger versus the Keisatsu Sentai Patranger's main henshin device and the trigger machines. So the henshin device is called the Versus Changer, which is used by both team members. Both the Lupinrangers and the Patrangers use the same device, and there's actually 6 of them in the show, at least as of this time. They also have their own sets of vehicles, so, as mentioned earlier, the Patrangers use the trigger machines, while the Lupinrangers use the doll fighters. Since I got the Keisatsu Sentai Patranger version of the Changer, I decided to go with that review first. So anyways, we'll now go on to presentation and contents. And now we're going to look at presentation and contents. Now, as you can see on the back here, we only have 3 boxes, and that's because the trigger machine Ichigo is with the actual Changer, while Nigo and Sango are 2 separate releases. If you went ahead and got the Lupinranger version, then it'll be in the complete opposite. Otherwise, you do need to get one of the vehicles with the Changer itself, so depending on which one you get, that is the one you're probably going to get the rest of the vehicles for. Anyways, we're going to take a look at the Changer's box first. The Changer box is pretty big, actually. And there's a picture of the actual Changer here. It actually comes with some kind of trading card. I'm not really sure what this is. I think it's maybe for Daiso, but I'm not really too familiar how the Daiso cards look like now. It has a pretty good picture of the Patrangers there. On the side, we got another team shot. On the back, it shows the features. So basically, it will actually show all the sounds and the fact that it does work with the Lupinranger vehicles as well. On the top, we pretty much got the same thing going on there, except we have a picture of the red doll fighter there. And on the top here, we do have the actual vehicles, etc. Now, similar to what we've seen in the recent age when it comes to the toys, we do have the whole flap being on the opposite side, so that is a bit strange, but it's understandable because of the way that everything's being packed up. Now we're going to take a look at the Trigger Machine Nigo's box. It's pretty small, actually. It's actually a relatively good size. I actually got some of the Voyagers, for those who don't know, watching my other previous reviews. So this is a little bit smaller than them, but it does have a relatively very similar size. It has a picture of the actual gimmicks there, and pretty much the same we see otherwise. Same thing with Sango's box here, so the Trigger Machine Sango. It's actually pretty cool. I think they're very colorful boxes, and they show what the actual product is very nicely. So now we're going to take a look at the card first. The card is pretty simple. It has a picture of Lupin Red and Patron Ichigo there. And on the back it just shows you that it works with the Daiso machine, so I guess this is a Daiso card. It's just very strange looking. I'm not really used to these new Daiso cards. So now we're going to take a look at the Changer itself. The Changer is a little bit on the small side, but it's still relatively nice in hand, even for a roleplay toy. It does have pretty nice size. It's definitely not the biggest Changer out there, but it does have enough size to be passable. The main gimmick is that you do spin this in order to activate the multiple sounds depending on what team member you use. However, which we're going to go on to once we go on to the features itself, it doesn't really matter how you spin it. It's really just for accuracy. But even if you pull it this way or that way, it's going to make the same sound depending on what type of the vehicle you're using. So, now we're going to take a look at the Trigger Machine Ichigo first. So, it's a pretty nice little car-looking design. Basically, each of the 3 trigger machines have this spring-loaded trigger here, which will activate the different gimmicks. So this one extends out. It doesn't go too far, but it does extend enough. And inside, we do have the mecha head inside, but we're actually going to look at that once we get onto the Good Striker review. Other than that, it's still a really nice vehicle design. It reminds me a lot of the Deca Rangers vehicles, so that's pretty cool. Next, we're going to take a look at the Nigo vehicle. So this is actually pretty strange looking. I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be. I think it's just kind of like a construction vehicle of some sort. It's really hard to tell, but it is supposed to be some kind of safety machine in general. It does have a siren up here, so I guess this is pretty cool. I forgot to mention it does have the numbers placed on the sides here, so that's really nice looking. For this one, it does have a gimmick when you press the trigger. This little cannon will actually spring out, but there isn't a whole lot going for the vehicles on their own. Lastly, we're going to take a look at Trigger Machine Sango. The main gimmick here is that this piece springs out, and you do need to manually pull out the baton in order to use it for an attack mode, since it has actually been used a couple times on the show as an attack mode in this mode, and it also becomes the weapon for the mecha itself. But once again, the Good Striker is out, but I actually don't have it yet since I'm actually getting with my orders. So that pretty much covers just the presentation and contents here. Since the boxes are very colorful and they do a very nice job promoting the toys themselves even before you open the box, and the fact that even though there isn't a whole lot going for what you're getting within the individual packages, it does work really nice, and I think Bandai Japan did a really good job just designing these in general. So I actually give this a 5 out of 5. And now we're going to go on to the features themselves. So first, we're going to take a look at the changer itself. It's a relatively nice size. It's definitely not the biggest out there. The handle is a bit on the awkward side, especially with this indentation here because of how it transforms when you spin it. But it is okay. It's definitely not the best, but it's definitely not the worst I've seen, especially for a roleplay toy. The main gimmick is that you do spin this mechanic here by holding onto the trigger here, and from there it will activate the different forms. You do need to do that in order to do with the changes and also summoning the mecha. So other than that, that's about it for the gun itself. So what we're going to do is turn it on. It does have the on and off switch of the circle and X, and it does have the battery compartment here, which you do need to use a screwdriver. It's not one of those pin type of things, and you do need to put in 2 AAA. So we're going to turn this on, and over here it's going to make some lights. So that's pretty cool. In this mode, it does pretty much have one sound. It does have a standard blast sound, but it does make a few more sounds when you spin it. And that's about it. On the sides, we do have the 2 symbols. So right here we have the Patranger symbol, which lights up. And on the other side, we have the Lupinranger symbol, which lights up. So it pretty much gives you an indication of which way you need to do it if you're not watching the show currently. Anyways, we're going to take the trigger machine Ichigo and slide it in. And make this confirmation sound, and then spin around. From here, it will actually... So it does have that really interesting sound. You do need to press this trigger inside in order to activate it. So that actually is really awesome. I really like the sounds of the device this season. And to summon the mecha, we're going to spin it and spin it down again. And that's all the sounds you're going to get with the individual vehicles themselves. Each vehicle will pretty much have 2 sounds on this device, and I think more will activate when you actually have the Good Striker, but that's about it otherwise. Just to show that no matter which way you spin it, it will make the same sounds. We're going to show it here. So it's going to make the exact same sound even if you spin it again to summon the mecha. So we're going to take out the trigger machine Ichigo, slide it off. Basically what you're going to do is press this button on the side and then you're able to slide it off. And we're going to take a look at trigger machine Nigo, which is Patron Nigo's engine device. So there we go. So the first sound's pretty much the exact same thing for the 3 of them, but it will actually activate new sounds when you actually go into summon it. So there we go. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the trigger machine Sango. So there we go. And then finally, summon the mecha. And that covers the main sounds of the versus changer when using the trigger machines. So there's definitely not a whole lot going from there, but the sounds are pretty cool, and at least it does recognize each of the vehicles as their own. The auxiliary mecha, for what I could tell, will also make their own sounds, but since they are not associated with the change sound, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with them. But it's still really nice for what you get when you get all the vehicles, but it's definitely kind of hard to recommend just getting one individual thing, since you're not going to get a whole lot out of it, especially if you don't end up having the changer. The vehicles themselves do some pretty cool things on their own, but there isn't a whole lot on their own if you don't have a changer, or even the Good Striker, which is out now. So it's best off just getting them as a set rather than getting them individually. So I think the features are pretty nice in this device, so since it does pretty much what it needs to do with no extra bells and whistles, I actually still give this about a 5 out of 5, since it still did what it needed to do overall. And now we're going to go on to the value segment of this review. Each of the vehicles on their own are around 1,500 yen to 2,000 depending on where you get them, and it's around $15 to $20 just in the individual pricing. And the changer itself, it's about, let's say about $30 to $40 depending on where you get it. So you're definitely going to get not a whole lot out of this device, but it does really cool things when you actually get the other vehicles. Obviously, the actual changer on its own, if you don't have any other vehicles to work with it, there really isn't a whole lot, but that's kind of a norm when it comes to the Sentai Changers in the modern era, since it does have to do with the whole gimmicks and so on, and pretty much the play value comes from just buying all the individual gimmicks in order to make new sounds from it. But I think it does look really nice, and it's okay enough in an adult's hand that I still recommend it even at the prices they are, but it's kind of probably better off to get it on sale. So I actually give this about a 4.5 out of 5 just because what you get out of the individual package, there isn't a whole lot to it. So in conclusion, I think this is still really nice that what Bandai Japan has done, and it's just another amazing changer that they released in the modern era. There's a whole lot of weird stuff that they've been releasing throughout the last couple years. I did enjoy for what they had, but I think it's still nice that we don't have a lot of the extra gimmicks going on here, and it does what it needs to do, even if it doesn't do a whole lot because of it. Especially if you end up getting a lot of the other vehicles, either the trigger machines or the dial fighters, you're going to have a whole lot of fun, in my opinion, in the set. So I highly recommend picking this up ASAP. And that covers my review for the Deluxe versus Changer and the 3 trigger machines. I definitely think it's best to check out places like HLJ and AmiAmi to get a hold of the set. I got my set from HLJ along with the Crocodile Full Bottle, which I'm probably going to review soon. But first I'm going to take out the reviews for the Dial Fighters next. Anyways, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and check out Hero Club and Hirotaku. Also check Return of Darkon 633, and don't forget to check down the other channels down below. Please check the little bell at the bottom of the screen in order to see my content go up as soon as possible. And I'm back with more Super Sentai reviews. For now, I'll be seeing you later, YouTube. Bye.